Welcome to TRN Podcast, episode 122. Today we're looking at a personnel decision connected to the potential new German federal government, the CDU-SPD coalition that's raised a few eyebrows. Carsten Linnemann won't be taking up a ministerial post.
Yeah, that's quite surprising, isn't it? Especially since his name was, very frequently mentioned as the likely economics minister. That's a key role in any cabinet.
Exactly. And Mr. Linnemann isn't just some backbencher, is he? He's currently the general secretary of the CDU and known to be a really close confidant of Friedrich Merz.
Absolutely central figure.
So what we want to explore today are the reasons behind this, unexpected move, and of course what it might mean for the CDU internally and for the government formation process as a whole.
And to do that, we've looked at various sources, reports from Bild, DePauw, AFP, Reuters, and also some interesting insights from its Site Online podcast. Together, they give us a pretty decent picture.
Okay, let's get into it then. What did Carsten Linnemann himself actually say about his decision?
Well, according to Bild, he was quite clear about it. His quote was something like, "We've worked hard over the last 3 years to rebuild our CDU. This process isn't finished yet. I want to continue it."
So he's really emphasizing his commitment to the party's internal development.
Very much so. He's framing it as dedication to that ongoing process.
Which makes sense when you think about it. The CDU started this big restructuring effort after the 2021 federal election loss. So it's understandable he still feels responsible there.
Right.
And he was also an early and strong supporter of Friedrich Merz's ambitions for the chancellorship, wasn't he?
Definitely. And we shouldn't forget, Linnemann played a really central role in developing the CDU's new, more conservative-leaning basic program in 2024. He led the commission for that.
Oh, okay.
That really shows his importance for the party's direction, its actual substance.
Very interesting. So how did Friedrich Merz, his close ally, react to this decision? I mean, reports did say Merz had offered Linnemann a cabinet position.
Yes, reports from CDU circles, picked up by DUPA and mentioned in Bild, seem to confirm that Merz did actually offer him a ministry.
Okay.
But what's quite notable is that both AFP and Reuters are reporting, pretty much in agreement, that Merz welcomed Linnemann's decision to stay on as general secretary.
Welcomed it. That almost sounds like it suited Merz just fine. Is there an explanation for that?
It's hinted at in the reports. The thinking seems to be that Merz might want to avoid too close a link, between the party leadership and the federal chancellery itself.
I see.
It could mean he thinks it's important to have a strong sort of independent party leadership, even while he's chancellor. Imagine the chancellor constantly having to deal with internal party stuff that could really hamper the governing.
That's a completely understandable point. So Linnemann stays as the strong man, kind of at the party base, focusing on organization and strategy.
Exactly.
While Merz concentrates on running the government.
Okay.
But let's look a bit closer at Mr. Linnemann's own background. He's been active in politics for quite some time now.
That's right. He's been a member of the German Bundestag since 2009. And particularly relevant for the economics minister discussion was his long stint as chairman of the Mittelstands- und Wirtschaftsunion, the MIT, from 2013 to 2021.
Ah, yes, the SME and Economic Union.
Yeah, that group is seen as a major part of the CDU's economic wing, the faction that really champions the interests of businesses and the self-employed.
Right, and in that role, he often took strong positions on economic policy, didn't he? Often favoring pro-business measures and, for example, repeatedly calling for lower income tax.
He did, consistently.
So it really seemed like everything was pointing towards him being a very suitable candidate for the economics ministry.
That was the widespread assumption, yeah. And there was even speculation, wasn't there, that under a potential CDU-led government, some kind of super ministry for economy and labor might be created.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, with Linnemann possibly heading it up. That idea surfaced both before and after the February election. A ministry like that would obviously carry enormous weight.
But those plans are now off the table with the current coalition agreement between the union and the SPD. Correct. The Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs remains separate and will be led by the SPD.
Exactly. That point is clearly set out in the coalition agreement. The SPD gets the Labor and Social Affairs Ministry. So yeah, the idea of that big combined super ministry is gone.
Right.
But it's still significant that Linnemann was one of the main negotiators for the union in the coalition talks. That also shows his standing within the party.
Absolutely. A chief negotiator. That underlines his importance. But what does his refusal mean now, specifically for filling the economics minister post?
Well, it's confirmed the CDU will lead the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. It's been renamed slightly, and the responsibilities have shifted a bit.
How so?
Climate protection, which was part of the economics ministry in the last government, that's now moving to the Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, and Nuclear Safety, which in turn will be led by the SPD.
Okay, so the job profile for the CDU's economics minister will change somewhat. And the key question, naturally, is who will succeed Robert Habeck now?
Precisely. That position is still open. However, one potential candidate is already being widely discussed in the media, Andreas Jung. He's the deputy leader of the CDU and a recognized expert on energy and climate policy.
Andreas Jung.
His name keeps coming up in this context. Interestingly, his focus is perhaps a bit different thematically compared to Linnemann.
Andreas Jung, then. That would imply a slight shift in thematic priorities, wouldn't it? Especially given climate protection is now in a different ministry.
It could, yes.
But let's also touch on the wider political context. That Zeit Online podcast we mentioned earlier raises some interesting questions too, right?
It does. They analyze the whole political situation, including questions about Friedrich Merz's potential chancellorship and possible policy shifts in key areas like asylum policy or the growing influence of Bavaria.
Right.
Even the idea of a dedicated space ministry was apparently discussed there. It just shows how many different topics are shaping the political debate right now.
And what seemed particularly insightful were the comments from Miriam Lau of CEI. She shed some light on Friedrich Merz's emotional state these days. You know, at a time when his long-held dream of becoming chancellor is getting closer, but it's happening under, let's say, difficult and complex circumstances.
Right. She suggests it's not an easy situation for Merz, this balancing act between his supporters' expectations, the realities of a coalition government, and all the term political challenges. It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
And the podcast also mentioned Johan Wadefull as a possible, though maybe not certain, candidate for foreign minister, so it shows the personnel planning within the union is still, very much in flux.
And bringing it back to Carsten Linnemann, his decision to stay on as general secretary really underscores his loyalty to Friedrich Merz, doesn't it?
I think so, yes.
After all, he was appointed to that strategic role by Merz after disagreements with the previous general secretary, Mario Chaja, who's seen as closer to the CDU's workers' wing.
That's a crucial point. It was clearly a strategic move by Merz to install Linnemann as general secretary to solidify and push through his own political line within the party.
It seemed like it at the time.
And Linnemann's early, consistent backing for Merz's run for chancellor, plus his key role in drafting the new basic program, they're clear signs of that close bond and, yes, loyalty.
Okay, so let's try to summarize the key points now. Carsten Linnemann, despite being considered a top contender for the economics ministry, has chosen to keep his main focus on his role as CDU General Secretary and that internal party rebuilding effort.
Right, he turned down a cabinet position to do that.
And this decision is likely to have significant effects on the CDU's internal power dynamics and, naturally, how the party positions itself and operates within the new coalition government.
Exactly. It shows that alongside personal ambition, these broader strategic considerations for the party as a whole play a decisive role.
Which, of course, raises some intriguing questions for us to ponder. What deeper motives might have influenced Linnemann's choice? Was it purely about party loyalty and finishing that internal renewal? Or perhaps other, less obvious factors were involved?
It's hard to say for sure from the outside.
And what does Linnemann's decision suggest about the CDU's current priorities and maybe Friedrich Merz's leadership style as they potentially enter government? Definitely something worth thinking more about, these complex connections.